Welcome to the Road End Podcast. Stay tuned to hear all things LFC.
Hi everyone and welcome to Season 3 of the Road End Podcast. Today I am joined by former Liverpool goalkeeper Adam Bogdan. Thanks very much for joining today, Adam. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. Apart from my eyes, I have the allergy for cats, and then I think I just bumped into some on the in the garden, but I'll be fine.
Will you get through it?
I will be okay. It just it looks a bit strange, I guess, but no, I'm fine. It's good. I watched the game yesterday. It was a good performance from Dominik. Yeah. He makes us proud, Hungarians. So yeah, it's good times for us.
So I've seen you've been about a lot recently in football matches in different countries, different cities. What's this about? Is this just something that you like to do now?
Well, my contract just finished with Ferencváros after 3 years, and basically I'm using the time. I think I'm pretty close to finish football. My playing days. I mean, although I haven't announced it yet, but just in case something good comes up. But I think it's going that way, that I'm probably gonna hang up the boots or the gloves. And while I'm having the time, I just thought it's the schedules were pretty decent. So a couple of my former teams have played or played that weekend, and then also I know some other obviously players like Joe Hart from Celtic, so he sorted out with some tickets, and I managed to get to a few other games as well. So it was a very, very good weekend.
Yeah, and I've seen you've been to a lot of music festivals recently as well. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that I wasn't able to do. Although when I was younger, before I moved to England, I always went to Sziget Festival in Hungary, but that's in August, so I missed at least 10 years or 10, 12 years of it. So now that I have the time, I'm just trying to attend as much. So it's football and music, football and rock and roll, that goes hand in hand, and now I have the time. It's I'm trying to make up for the last couple of last 10 years, to be honest.
Well, people do say a lot, don't they, that footballers are paid this and that. They got the best of everything, things like that. But like you mentioned, you do miss out on quite a lot because you can't just go to a music festival. You can't just go to a football match whenever you want. Does it feel good that you can do that right now?
No, it feels really good, but it felt amazing to play as well. So yeah. It's something that I don't think that any football player, unless they are injured or they have a little bit of a bad time, but I think as soon as they start playing, they wouldn't change it, because it's the best game really. And if you're lucky, and then especially when you play in the Premier League or playing up in Scotland or Championship in England, play in front of a lot of people, and it's all worth it. But once you have the time, why not enjoy the summer?
Okay, so I just want to know how you got into goalkeeping, basically, first of all, because obviously the saying is you have to be crazy first of all to be a goalkeeper. Was you a crazy youngster, or is that just something?
I don't think I was crazy, but I don't know. I think that the crazy people don't know that they are crazy. So I love playing football. I love playing every kind of sport, really. But I think, my father tells me that when he was, passing the ball to me, I ended up diving on it. Or whenever it was rainy or muddy, I enjoyed being, in the mud and slide around. At home, enjoyed diving off the couch or onto the couch. So I guess it was natural. And then, it turns out that I had the talent. I ended up, 6'4" as well, which helped. And although I played handball, which is not a big sport in England, but in Europe it's quite big, and I enjoyed it a lot as well in school. So being in a goal, it's sometimes a burden. It's not as enjoyable as it would be for outfielders. So my biggest dream was always to score some goals, because especially in handball, you get a lot of chances, whereas in a football, in the goal, sometimes you make a mistake once and then that's your game, really. Yeah. So, but to be honest, I had a good talent. I had a good talent for goalkeeping, and ended up, with the right people next to me, or sometimes the wrong people next to me. But I used it as a motivation, and I ended up in pretty good places.
Yeah, of course you did. You had let's say before Liverpool, you had a brilliant time at Bolton Wanderers. You was the mainstay in goal for quite some time. Obviously, with UC, was UC at the club at the time as well?
UC was at the club. He was an absolute legend. At that time. When I arrived at 2007, Bolton had a fantastic season. Just when I arrived, but then they went through changes because Sam Allardyce just left, and Sammy Lee, another Liverpool legend, became the manager. But it didn't really work out for him because he got they parted company, and Gary Megson came pretty soon after. But I was training and getting change with the reserves, and then training with the first team goalkeeping coaches. Training with the first team goalkeeping coach, but with the first team goalkeepers with Jaskalainen and Ali Al-Habsi and Ian Walker. So for me, that was dreamland, really. UC was one of my favorite goalkeepers when I was back in Hungary watching the games on TV. And we are pretty similar size. He's coming from Finland, and of course I'm coming from Hungary. But I thought although at that time it looked really unrealistic, the tempo, the speed of the game, the way he handled pressure, the crosses, and everything in the Premier League. It was really hard to believe that I'm going to reach that level. And but I thought if he did it, then I have a chance as well. And so I basically copied a lot of things of him, and although he wasn't sometimes the easiest personality, but he was a brilliant, role model for me. I learned pretty much almost everything of him. So yeah, I don't think that he's going to listen to this podcast, but if he does, then thank you.
When you say personality, would you just say he was the opposite?
Yeah, I mean, he's like Kimi Räikkönen. He has a Finnish.
Yeah. Wow.
He's not, and UC is not like that as much, but he has this kind of the black and white. What I'm always like, sort of like, yeah, but this and this can happen, and he would be like, just okay, this is it, and then shut up and do that. Boys, but on the main thing was that that he was professional, and then he showed me when I was coming from Hungary in 2007. Nobody really knew what to do in the gym, what to eat, why you eat that, all these things that it's very common sense now, even now in Hungary, I would say, but back then it just wasn't as professional. So he just basically he explained it, and I copied a lot of things from him.
How did you find the transition from obviously moving from Hungary to, Bolton? It's not the capital of culture, let's say, Bolton. But how would you say the change was for you, just as a person before a goalkeeper?
Yeah, listen, I was so excited I'm doing quite a lot of podcasts these days. I don't know, people. I guess it's part of Dominik as well. He moved to the Premier League, I grew up, my dream was to play in the Premier League. I didn't really care about anything else, to be honest. Like I couldn't, not that I couldn't care, but I didn't dream of playing in the first division in Hungary. I didn't dream of course I dreamt of the national team, but mainly it was the Premier League. And I remember like I had to do like 100 press ups every day in order, if I miss it, then I won't be there, like this kind of mindset. Yeah. So I ended up doing it. Like sometimes I woke up at night and I was like, fuck, I missed it, and I had to do it like in order just to, I can't give a chance not to get there by missing out on press ups. So for me, I was obsessed with the Premier League, and that that was my biggest motivation. So when I arrived and I got a chance, and I just said a previous interview, like, just imagine that I played in the second division in Hungary because I was on loan. And I would say like 40 people would turn up in that game. And then maybe in the main team where I grew up, Vasas, you had like 2,000 people in the games, or maybe 3,000 in the better days. And then I end up signing at Bolton. We go out with now my wife, then my girlfriend. We stayed in the Reebok hotel in the hotel area, and look out, and then you have like 6,000 Newcastle fans just arrived. And then I walked into the stadium from a hotel into the main stand. As at that time, it was, I couldn't even imagine that. And then I see the game. It's a full house. You have 28,000 people at the Reebok. The game itself is just intense. It's everything that I wanted to see, and everything that I hoped, I will have a chance to achieve at some point. So I was in dreamland, and then the hard work started. I had the goalkeeping coach Fred Barber, and he's very famous of being really, really tough, really tough on players. He has a method that worked for UC and worked for Ali Al Habsi and others, but it's a tough school. It really is. I struggled for like at least 6 months. I was so tired. I've never been so tired in my life. The concentration, the hard work, the 2 sessions, the gym sessions, so much information that's going in. You have to break down your game and then build it up again. And in the meantime, I started playing in the reserves. And even then, I think the second game was against Man City. It was Joe Hart. I remember we played against each other. So you have like, I wouldn't call it friendships, but like good relationships for me even back then. And it took me quite a lot of years to be able to come in and compete with the likes of Ali Al Habsi and UC. And Ali Al Habsi went to Wigan on loan. Yeah. And then they decided to promote me to second choice. And once you're there, you're even closer, and you think you make you believe, because anything can happen. And what happened was that UC got sent off in one of the games for a silly, I wouldn't even call it a slap. It wasn't even that, but the referee decided to send him off against Birmingham, and I got to play. And I remember I was so nervous. It was like 10 minutes, probably to the halftime, until the halftime. And then I thought to myself in the halftime, it's like, listen, you worked so hard. You always wanted to be here. Just try to enjoy it a little bit, not to be as nervous. And then it worked out. We were man down, and I think we drew the game. Managed to save at the end a 1v1. So that's a good memory. And then you feel the satisfaction of that game, and the calmness after that. Finally. And it was in 2000 and, gosh, I think it's 10. If it's 11, I'm sorry, but it might be 10. And then you suddenly, you play the Premier League. Then you have a chance to be in the national team in Hungary. Then, of course, it came to, I played altogether 21 games. And then, but that season, UC was, of course, the main goalie. And he came back, but I get to play against Arsenal, and it was just a magical time because my parents would come to the game in London. It was just brand new, but you had still you could still enjoy it because you were still second choice, and everything was nice, and nothing bad had happened to me yet. I really enjoyed that period, and then and of course I started to play in January the following season, because we struggled, to be honest, in the season. The season that when I made my debut, we had a fantastic season. We played really well. It was fresh. In the second season, we had some horrible injuries to Stuart Holden. We ended up selling Gary Cahill in January. then somehow, I started playing, and I tried my best, and I really enjoyed it. But we ended up, I ended up, one of the best players in that season because of the fans voted. Got the players, which is, for me, was incredible, because you see the names of like Okocha, Jaskalainen, Kevin Nolan, another Scouser, Kevin Davis on the same trophy, but at the same time we got relegated at that same time. So it's one of the worst days of my life. Whereas you have like an individual accomplishment, which
very bittersweet.
Oh, it's more bitter, I would say, than sweet. Much more. It's still one of those days that I still couldn't get hold of it, especially when you see like Bolton, I still couldn't really, we stayed in a championship for a couple of seasons, and we almost got promoted in the first season back then. But then, became like first choice, sharing the games with Andy Lonergan, because he was brilliant as well. And also I got always got a lot of injuries, through my time. So, but I ended up always playing, always getting my position back. And I got, to be honest, like I got through some hard times because of injuries. I'm also like tip of form, and then managed to speak to this good sports psychologist. He was brilliant for me, Neil, and I managed to put some performances together, and some good run at the end that I think was quite mature performances against like good teams like Liverpool and the newly promoted Bournemouth. Sorry, Bournemouth, we just gone up. So some good performances, like I said, and then ended up going to Liverpool, which was an unbelievable move, to be honest. Like it was, again, you sort of like, I can only compare it to the time when I went to Bolton and then going to Liverpool. It's Championship Bolton to one of the maybe I wouldn't say the best team at that time in the world, but certainly one of the biggest teams in the world. It's just overwhelming, to be honest. The scale.
If you don't mind me butting in there, how did that move come about? So did you get a call? Did your agent push you about with different clubs, or did they call you?
To be honest with you, my contract was about to finish with Bolton, and I kind of saw the way it's going. It wasn't going to improve, to be honest. Like we were getting like less and less chance and stucking into relegation fights until January or March, with the season. So one season was maybe better, and then it's just getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
And then I said that I think there's a time to maybe not continue with Bolton, although of course listening to the offer on the table. But then I was driving back, the first time I ever drove back, because my contract was finished. So I packed quite a lot of stuff. My wife was pregnant, so we drove back to Hungary. And I think when we were in Austria, then he called me. Then he said like there's a chance for Liverpool. I didn't have other. It was very early, in the transfer window, and then wow, I was like, that's incredible. And of course they had probably other options, and maybe one of the options wouldn't work out, and then the other one was between me and another player. But it happened that they choose me, and then and again, like another dimension of levels of the scale of everything. The media, you have like Liverpool as on TV. We traveled straight away because my daughter was born on the day when I'm supposed to meet up, so I got like 5 days extra, and then I'd be traveled straight to Bangkok. But it was like, I think it was like 2 planes. So yeah, it was really incredible, and of course the level of football was much higher. The level of the expectations, the training sessions, the concentration, the side. So yeah.
Okay, so you've been at these clubs before, Liverpool, then, and I just want to know, when you go on this pre-season tour and you get off this plane and you see these thousands of people ready to be screaming your names, to be wanting shirts signed for everything, how does that feel? Does it hit you then how big the club is?
Yeah, it does. To be honest, it's always they told me before that this is when you're gonna realize when you go to Australia or Bangkok, and then you it really hits you, because you turn up and you play, I don't know, in front of 50,000 people in the first preseason game. Wow. Which, come on, I mean, who does it happen to? It happens to only a handful of teams, in Europe. And then we go to Australia. You can't really leave the hotel because, people in front of your hotel all the time. You play in this huge cricket ground, or then you play in Brisbane, which was a normal football stadium. But yeah, then you realize that whatever you do, it's not just viewed in Liverpool, or as in Bolton's case, it would be the Bolton News. And even in Match of the Day, even if you're Premier League, it would be the last one to come on sometime, like your game. So I remember staying up, like falling asleep, because Bolton would be always the last on Match of the Day. And then suddenly it's the whole world. The whole world is talking about you, which until the point you're doing well and everything is going well, it's brilliant. But there's also another side of it where you have to probably experience the bad things, and then you need to learn how to deal with it.
So you obviously at Liverpool, you worked under Brendan Rodgers. I hear mixed things about Brendan Rodgers, and obviously as a Liverpool supporter, we seen that envelope thing, what he done, which still baffles me.
Which one? What is
so there was a program that come out called This Is Liverpool. I think it was called This Is Liverpool. And he done it. He said that he wrote names in an envelope, basically. And he done this pre-season talk, and he said, I've got the names in these envelopes of who's going to let me down this season. Make sure it's not you guys. And when that come out, that didn't really sit well with Liverpool fans. When we're not really that type of fan base, where we don't want anyone to let us down. Of course we don't. But if they do, we get behind them. So it was a bit weird. How was it working for him? Was that another level again in terms of?
Yeah, he was, because like I said, it was very intense. So for example, just to give you an example, like when I landed and the next day I had to train, and I haven't been training, I had like 5 weeks off or even 6 weeks off, because it was the first. And we played small-sided games at the end of the session. And normally you would do like, especially before traveling, you would do like maybe a 1 round or like a 2. It was 4 rounds. So I thought like, okay, I've done well here. It's the first session. Like, okay, let's go. And then another round and another one. And I'm like, so exhausted. I lost my toenail in after the first session, because I had new boots on. It was tight. It was so intense. And I think he made some changes in the stuff as well. And I thought when I was in Anfield, they always told me that, and I played at Anfield and I've been on the bench at Anfield before, so I knew the atmosphere and I know how it is. But when I was at the first time I was on the bench for Liverpool, the atmosphere wasn't great. It's like there's a lot of nervousness, I think this previous season didn't work out very well. The season before that was a brilliant season, almost obviously winning the league. And I think there was a lot of the people weren't patient anymore. And the atmosphere wasn't great. It was very when the away supporters sing, of course they're gonna mock the home supporters with, is this a library? But it was a lot of times I was like, they always say like, of course the Anfield has, which I know and experienced it later. When you had the Europa League campaign later on, it's the best in Europe, for atmosphere. But that time it wasn't great. And then and then you could feel that something wasn't right anymore. And of course, that in October, the club made the change, and Klopp came in. What I remember and what I was really occupied with myself, to get fit and try to get up to this tempo. But obviously he's a proven manager who has a unique style of playing. He's been very successful, and for some reason after that brilliant season, he couldn't really progress. He just sort of went downwards, and the club made the change.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying with the atmosphere and things like that, because I remember this like it was yesterday. It just felt very toxic, and a lot in and around the ground. It felt very uncertain, especially with Suarez's situation and little things that were going on. It just didn't feel like the right.
Yeah, and then also place. Like remember, like Klopp came in and then he said to the press as well, or even like, because people would be leaving, like a lot of people would be leaving like 10 minutes before the game, which is understandable, because you want to get out of the city if you don't. And then so it was the case, for the first couple of months when I was there, and then it slowly changed. And I think that's when we talk about probably with Klopp, about Klopp as well. Like, he's done an unbelievable job, and I don't think he was afraid to call it out, the stuff that he didn't like, but at the same time he made sure that the progress is implemented, and it's there. And then I think the fans, then they could see that it's going in the right path. Although the first season, we couldn't win the Europa League or the League Cup. Sorry, the League Cup, which I hoped we're gonna, because I played 3 games in that cup.
Fantastic saves and a pen shootout, if I remember.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was a good debut, to be honest. Like, I was really proud of that, it was great. But I think the fans could see that is progress, and it's progress of the way the club or the team plays. There's more direct. There's more. I think it resonated much better with the fans. Definitely. The way that Klopp wanted to the team to play. And the rest is history. I mean, he's done a fantastic job. He's been doing a fantastic job. But
Can I ask you something on? I don't know if you remember this, but West Brom at home. The players all get hold of each other's hands, cop end, and all like clap the players, clap the fans, and we just drew, and there was a lot of media scrutiny for that. Can you remember that?
The first time when Klopp came?
Yeah, when Klopp arrived, and he got all the players to go up at the end after the 2-2 draw at West Brom. And all like pretty much clap the fans, but like lifting their arms together and stuff as if to say thanks. And
did you like it? As a fan, you like those things?
Well, as a fan, I was a bit confused, but at the same time, I was like, he needs us. He needs us. And
I think he's brilliant with that. I think he really understands the way fans think and the way fans are. I think he's a very intelligent guy who also know exactly how to show appreciation and how to get the fans behind. And when you have a fan base like a Kop, and it's massive behind, of course you have to use it. You have to. I mean, maybe it's the wrong word. Sorry, but
no, it's right. It's right what you're saying. Yeah,
but you have to. You get together and had to be one with the fan base, because that's what the strength is, for Anfield, which after the coming years, if proved to be, is in Champions League nights and Europa League nights in the first year. Okay, so I mean he's not just a good coach, not just a good coach. He's a brilliant coach, but he understands the fans. He understands the city. I think he really wanted to be here, and it's a perfect marriage, I guess.
Yeah. So obviously, your game time was very limited at the club, which must have been frustrating for yourself. Obviously, you wanted more and more, as any footballer would. Was Klopp very honest with you in how you was going to, let's say, see your career at Liverpool?
To be honest, I never really, I think the people ask me how he was with me or some. it's I was there as a second choice, and I wanted to push to be number one, and I thought I had a chance because Simon, as brilliant goalkeeper he is, I think he had, just as everybody, he had a little bit of a hard time, in that season, and he also got injured, and I gave me the chance to come in, and until that point I did reasonably well, in the cup games. It's just unfortunate that that game against Watford, it didn't work out the way it wanted, and then Klopp made the decision to play Simon in the Europe in the Carling Cup semi-finals, and then I played in the FA Cup a couple of days later, and that game didn't work out the way I planned as well. And then as being an honest, to be honest, you can see my emotions all the time, and I can get myself really down when something doesn't work out, or I make a mistake or something. And at that level, I think it's not that when you make a mistake, because everyone makes a mistake. It's how you react, and if you let your head down and you can see that you are too devastated, that doesn't help. And I think every manager, it's always going to be like this. Every manager who comes in to a new club, he has about 150 cases and things to worry about. The last thing he wants to worry about is the goalkeeping situation. Yeah. He wants the stability. He wants to occasionally save saving the team, but he doesn't want uncertainty. And I think he certainly with me, he didn't see that in me, that I can steady the ship, if you like. And then later on, and I also said that I would like to go on loan, because that's when the European Championship was about to come in 2016. Okay. That time he wouldn't let me, but in the summer I was when Karius would come in, and I would stay there as third choice. I said, it's hard, because after being first choice for so many years in Bolton, being a third choice, even, and this is a funny, I think psychologically it's interesting. Even if it's one of the biggest team in the world, you still feel like sometimes it's a third choice. Now, I would take that role now because I'm 35 or 36, but when you're 28, it's a bit hard. And then I just try to get out on loan and play and try to get back into the national team. But to be honest, he was honest with me. I don't think he see enough in me. And in the end, when Loris and even Simon as well didn't really work out the way he had hoped, he had to go into the transfer market and then sign. And I said, I always said this in the interview, I called this a couple of weeks before. I said that the club needs to sign the biggest name, the best talent, and probably the most expensive keeper as well on the market, because that the goalkeeping situation, it wasn't giving any assurance for the fans and for the club itself. And I think when Alisson came in, he's a super talent, a super intelligent guy with unbelievable skill sets, and I think that was a game changer for Liverpool. As same as Van Dijk was in the defense, and the same as the front three with Firmino, Salah, and Mane. I think that signings over the years and the progression, it took 4 years, I guess, until the Champions League win. 3 years. Was it 3 years? Sorry. But the progression was there, and he and the club managed to call the not always the right calls, but they adjusted, and then they got it right in the end. And that's the main thing. And it took Liverpool into highs that always wanted out, and where Liverpool should belong, competing for Champions Leagues and winning Champions Leagues and winning the Premier League. So and of course I came back from Wigan because I've done my ACL after playing 4 months. But I could see this. I could see the change in the in Melwood. I can see the quality getting better. Not just in football wise, but in terms of food, in terms of equipment, in terms of training. methods and times and even though I didn't play and I was injured for a long time, and being as a first team player but not really involved, but I could see it. For me, it was such a good, like a valuable time, if you can call this, because I've seen one of the greatest teams getting evolving at all times. Yeah.
Well, just quickly on Alisson then. Obviously, football is, let's say, transformed for any goalkeeper from just making saves to actually being an actual footballer in terms of the feet a lot recently. So you've got the likes of Alisson, Ederson, just to name a couple. How did you find that transition over the years? Have you found that you've had to play like that more?
Yeah, so for me, my generation, you could see that I'm going to use my example that I found it hard at the beginning because at Bolton it was like take one or two touch and go as long as possible, trying to find Kevin Davies, at the front, really knock it down, and then you would go from there, and then suddenly people start talking about like splitting center halves and picking up position in the six, but then you have to understand like why is that? In the beginning, you don't really understand, you don't really feel comfortable with this, especially when you're growing up saying that the Premier League is too fast for that, and you know your players. If you pass it and he loses it, it's your fault, and then suddenly the complete change of mindset comes in. But when you grow up, it's hard, and then it just, you see, like with De Gea at United, it happened to him in the Spanish national team as well, and it just happened to him at United because for him it's hard. It's not necessary when there's no pressure. Of course, you're going to pick a pass and you're going to play, but when you're under pressure and then your instinct comes in, what you practice for the last 10 years, and that would be go long. Yeah. And it's only until I came back to Hungary and we had a coach, Rebrov. He used to play at Tottenham. He was
Sergei, is it?
Yeah. And he was massive on Spanish style football, and that's when you start practicing every day. The like, why is it? He explains it through video, and then you realize, okay, so that's why, and that's how. Okay, so I think I made a transition in, possibly in, of course, not in a level as the Premier League, but now I understand it and I see it this way, and I can see why a keeper, when he makes a mistake in a position and when he makes a mistakes he could have chosen that pass, whereas before I wouldn't, and maybe I would fight against it because you think it's too risky.
Yeah.
Now these guys like Alisson and Ederson especially, and like Onana, and the younger ones like James Trafford, for example, like he just signed for Burnley. For them, it's natural. They grew up like this, and then you can hit the number 8, or you can hit this. What can I pass the diagonal into the midfield? How is that possible? You've never seen this before. So yeah, it's hard. And then you same like Joe is. I love Joe. He was a brilliant keeper and still is. I'm sorry, he is a brilliant keeper. But you could see that, like Man City, he would, like Guardiola just changed him like this, and it's a legend. Yeah. So some keepers, even like the highest level, they fall for this transition, and then they either make it or they find a club where they don't require this. So yeah, it's interesting one, because like I said, for Onana, maybe there was something in 10 years time will come that's going to be changing, and then maybe Onana will feel a bit strange about it. But right now the time is his and the youngsters, because for them it's natural. They understand. Yeah.
Joe Hart, and I know this is a Liverpool podcast, but he's easily been one of the greatest English goalkeepers that I've seen, certainly in my life. So
brilliant person as well.
Yeah, and I get that impression when I see him on like, let's say, shows like League of Their Own and things like that. He just seems like a normal guy. I kind of look at it from a Liverpool perspective, or just a football fan, and think that it was harsh on him, because everything, and don't get me wrong, Pep's made the decision and look where they are now, but I kind of feel like he's gone from the top it's dropped down so much so quick, and I can't understand why. Because
not sure the Celtic fans will be happy with you.
You know what I mean by this. No, so he's what I'm saying is, so obviously City, let's say, just sort of cut ties with him, and that was that. And then he finds himself third choice at Spurs, and it just felt very fast how his career just went from the highest of the highs to maybe third choice. It was weird.
I don't know. It's thinking that you can draw comparisons with me. It's not in terms of level, because he's always been a higher level, and I would regard, played much more games for England than I did for Hungary. So but we are the same age. And I think it's hard mentally to make when everything progresses in a way that it naturally comes. Like you go on loan, you play well. He went on loan to Birmingham. He's done. Honestly, when I saw that, that season for him, he was new. He was unbelievable. He was so fresh, so agile. He came out, with the spread, when he goes for 1v1 saves.
It's huge as well, isn't he?
It's huge. That was new. And this is what I said to somebody, like I used to do this spreading, like coming out. But then a couple of years, like maybe 6 years down or 5 years down the line, strikers will start picking it up, and they start dinking you. They start going through your legs. And now look at Alisson. He invented this sort of like, it's almost like a spread, but he sort of like slides into the direction of the ball. And if they want to go around him, he can still push. It's not like he do the block, like we used to. And then of course, where you go from City, if the manager, okay, being harsh, but then what do you do? I guess City doesn't want to let you go to a rival.
True.
You can't really go to Man United. You can't really go to Liverpool because that's still a rival. Or maybe there's a goalkeeper there, So there's always like, where is your option? And then you choose Rome, and then you come back, and then okay, you go to another team, but it doesn't really work out. And then what? So it's not an easy. Yeah, it's not an easy career. I think that's when you realize that people are so lucky. The few of them, like Iker Casillas, at Real Madrid, they used to be, or Buffon. That it's not that simple and not that easy to stay around, because you need a lot of things have to go right. But nevertheless, Joe is a fantastic character. I think it's huge for the dressing room in Celtic as well. And I'm really happy for him because he plays in a fantastic club, and he's very successful there. He's won 2 leagues. He's won 2 Premier Leagues.
Just as a football fan for Joe as well. Just obviously he's not going to listen to this. You see the Liverpool badge and he'll avoid. But I am happy for him to see him where he is now. I think Celtic's a huge club, which we all know about, and Liverpool have got a brilliant relationship with Celtic. But it's just good to see him at that. The Scottish League does get a lot of criticism, to be fair. And he's at the top of his game again. A massive club with massive demands week in, week out. So, fair play to him for mentally and showing the character to actually get back to that level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He deserves it.
Okay, so let's finish with, obviously, I'm going to ask about, you've been asked probably 3 million times in the last few months. We've just signed Dominik Szoboszlai. Talk to me about him without trying to repeat yourself over the last few weeks.
What I can say, it's pretty fresh at the moment. I have to be honest, I didn't watch Bundesliga games too much. I've seen him a couple of times in the Champions League, and I trained with him for a couple of weeks. In the maybe a year and a half ago. This is what I would repeat, is that he was born for this. He's a super talent. He's the biggest talent for Hungarian football, and he's managed really well as well. Like he had always had good coaches around him. He always had the good agent that take him into the right pathway, and he arrived to where I think he belongs. Certainly, he belongs to the biggest clubs. and I've seen him live in Preston, and I see his highlights in yesterday, and it just looks. It's not. I wouldn't say the word easy, but he's at that level, comfortably.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whereas some people, come in and it takes time, and then you think they are nervous. But for his one touching game, and the 2 touches, it's just so comfortable. He sees the game so well. He stayed on for 90 minutes, against Chelsea, which is not easy because it's super intensive, games with Pochettino. He's fit, he's young. He's got an unbelievable right foot. I hope that he will have a chance to shoot from distance. When it comes to like free kicks, because it's unique. And I'm really glad that I'm really glad for Hungary as well that we have a player of this caliber. But also I'm really glad to see this because obviously until you can play in Bundesliga. Sometimes it doesn't work out, when you come over because it's a different league. But what I see here is, he just feels comfortable. It's just his surroundings and his it didn't look. I don't know what was your thought on it, but it didn't look like he just arrived.
No, he doesn't look out of place for me. Yeah. So it looks like he's been here for 12 months at least, because like you said, it's don't get me wrong, it's not the peak Chelsea right now. It will be. But what he didn't do anything wrong. And I think that's the most important thing for him right now is to...
He plays so mature, like he was 28 or 29 or 30.
Yeah, and I'm 20
or something.
I'm quite disappointed that Jota took the ball off him, to be fair, because he done an amazing run.
He was on his left.
What's his left like?
He must be good, I think, but of course you can't compare it to his right. But that run was just... so I think, and the fact that of we all know that Jürgen Klopp is German, then he speaks German, Dominik. So I think anything that is this straight away, there's a bond, I would say, and then anything that it wouldn't be clear, then they can talk in German straight away. But as well as he's coming from the Bundesliga, and I think Jürgen Klopp knows what to expect from a team, from a player who's coming from the Bundesliga. They know that tactically will be aware. He would understand the counter pressing because that's what they've been brought up with. So I think, it looks like it's a really, really good match, and I'm just trying not to use big words because I want to see. I don't want to say it. I want to see good things for him. But it certainly looked like a very comfortable, a very mature performance from his side, and like I said, just let him shoot from distance because he's class.
We haven't had this since Stevie. So Liverpool don't score many goals from midfield, and when we signed him, obviously the first thing you do is YouTube, and when you're seeing him hitting 30-yard thunder strikes, you're thinking, okay, I can do that. I can watch that.
Yeah. But it looked. I mean, the first 30 minutes performance yesterday from Liverpool, that looked like a proper. Like Liverpool performance from over the years. I really hope it's going to be a good season. Now signing a number 6 as well, which will help, I think.
I hope this happens. I believe he's going to Chelsea as well, Lavia.
He's going to Chelsea as well?
Yeah.
What the fuck? How is it? I mean, I understand that, like for foreign players, they would, if there's a chance, they would choose London, which is possibly understandable from that side. But how is it? I don't understand. How is it allowed for Chelsea to spend so much? Is there like a fair play stuff, like a financial fair play?
So this is getting a lot of people's backs up this because they've just got a blank checkbook at the moment, and Everton are struggling. And they're under investigation. Man City are under investigation, but they're still going to buy Gvardiol for 85 million. It's to me, it means absolutely nothing that the paper that's written on at the moment, FIFA Fair Play.
And it's nothing, they went against the owners, a couple of fans I read, but it's not like they wouldn't spend it. It's at the moment they just can't seem to get it over the line because you have another team that anything you want, they would just
that's the problem. So, it says that we've agreed the 60 million fee today. However, Chelsea are ahead in terms of agreeing personal terms. So,
how many? I don't even know that they did not have this problem that they couldn't facilitate, like that many players last season.
Yeah,
they just
so they've
they've
sold a load and brought more in.
It's mad, isn't it? It's just insane. And sometimes when I don't understand how it works. It must be something weird going on.
We will see, I suppose. But let's end there. Hopefully, we do get a six. Obviously, I've run quite a lot over time, but that's just down to you being a brilliant guest. So, Adam, I just want to thank you so much for your time, mate. It's
no worries. Anytime. Really. I find it. We can end the recording, by the way. Okay. So I'm glad that I was on the show. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks to everyone for listening in to today's podcast, and thank you to our amazing guests. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Don't forget to follow us on social media, twitter.com/The Road End Pod, and on Instagram, Instagram/The Road End Pod.